Hi, I'm Robert Crowe from Leading for Purpose, and welcome to our series of governance fundamentals for not-for-profit chairs. Today I'm going to be talking to you about one of the essentials that I feel as part of the NFP governance role, and that is compliance of your organisation from your board as well. Now, compliance to me is one of the foundations, along with finance, that is really essential for a successful and prosperous NFP. So, some of the key things that you should be thinking about as a board and a governance team is making sure that from a compliance point of view, the board understands its compliance requirements. So it's not only its requirements of its activities and processes and role as a board, but also in the broader terms from the organisation's point of view to make sure that the organisation is meeting its compliance requirements in relation to the way it's set up under any acts or regulations that it might fall under. The other thing is making sure that the organisation understands its compliance requirements. Now, these can not only come from organisational structural point of view or a company structure point of view, but compliance requirements for the organisation can include things like occupational health and safety, equal opportunity, discrimination, privacy. There's a hell of a lot of requirements that every organisation needs to make sure that they're complying with. Some of those compliance requirements also might come from the type of service, product, or activities that you're carrying out as well. So, if you're doing research, medical research, you're going to have specific compliance requirements. If you're working with children, if you're working with people with a disability, every organisation is going to have their own combination of compliance requirements. Could even be a framework that you have to work under. And certainly the NDIS has its own framework that requires you to meet as well. Should also make sure that that cascades down and that the board policies and procedures reflect those compliance requirements. So not only understanding what your requirements are, but making sure that it's embedded in your policies and procedures as well as a board. And also from the organisation's point of view, are those policies and procedures inclusive of those specific compliance requirements from your organisation's point of view. And it's really important and hard for a board to know right down to the minutiae, that every policy and process and procedure includes that. But if you include some sort of review, or that you have a requirement on the organisation to do a review, or that you get a third party in, can help you along the way to making sure that those requirements are met. So remember, from that point of view, you need to make and take all reasonable steps. You need to be thinking about yourself, have we taken all reasonable steps to make sure that the organisation is meeting its compliance requirements? And certainly making sure that all employers understand that as well. So making sure also that compliance failure in an organisation. So if you do have any issues or problems from a compliance point of view, that it is investigated and rectified, and then having that on the agenda for the board, making sure that that is being reported up. It's quite interesting sometimes if you ask those specific questions around compliance, whether the organisation is reporting everything up to the board. And it's important that you know that, and you should be asking that question and having it on your agenda as well. You need to make sure also that the organisation, that there is a mechanism in place to understand emerging compliance requirements. So you might understand for today, but what's happening into the future? What are those changes that are coming on? How is the organisation, how is the board actually managing that? Are you thinking about the future compliance requirements with changing legislation, changing frameworks, changing funding, changing requirements, even from the ACNC or the way you raise money, etc., from that point of view. So you need to make sure you are capturing those oncoming trends. The other thing you need to make sure of, and from a cultural point of view, and this is really important because it's very topical at the moment for boards, is that the organisation's culture supports compliance reporting. So making sure that people feel comfortable and that they can report compliance requirements, and with impunity. There should not be any ramifications for the individual reporting compliance requirements. On some boards that I have been on, we have encouraged that, and we have notified, the organisation that if they do feel that the things are, not going as they should from a compliance reporting point of view, they should feel free to talk to one of the board members about it. And certainly, in your NFP, it's usually a shorter distance between the management team and the organisation and the board. So you should leave that open. Again, you need to make sure that you understand your compliance requirements, that you are monitoring, that you are making sure that any changes or any issues in relation to compliance in your organisation are managed, rectified, and that you have that continuous improvement process in place from that point of view. So thank you again for listening in to the Governance Fundamentals pieces. I hope to see you again on our future videos.